The order has just come. The order has just come. Status quo to be maintained. All right, status quo to be maintained. That is what the bench has ruled. Justice Banerjee has said interim status quo for 2 days. You have the puja somewhere else and go back to the High Court. So, which means tomorrow, the first day of Ganesh Chaturthi, the puja will not happen at the Eidgah Maidan. The interim status quo will continue for 2 days. The puja can be done elsewhere, is what the court has said. And they have also asked both parties, if they so choose, in this case the Karnataka state, to go back to the High Court for a revised order. So that is the big breaking development as of right now. This is what the bench has held, that as of right now, the status quo should be maintained. You can hold the puja somewhere else. Interim status quo has been given for 2 days, and permission has been given to the parties interested, or the parties concerned, to approach the High Court once again in case they want a revised order or a modified order. So the Supreme Court order right now from the 3-judge bench headed by Justice Indira Banerjee is that the status quo continues. Both sides will maintain the status quo, which means there will not be any Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations. There will only be, the ground will be used only as a playground for most days of the year. And for 2 days, there will be Ramzan festivities and Bakrid festivities. Otherwise, the status quo as is, as it has existed for the last many decades, will continue, is what the Supreme Court has just held. If we can go across to our reporters, I think Harish is there. Harish, so this is the order from the 3-judge bench that the status quo will continue for 2 days. In the meanwhile, the parties concerned are free to go back to the High Court.
Yes, a significant order coming in there. Perhaps when the court says you can go back to the High Court, they're referring to the ongoing case in the High Court about the ownership of this place. Remember, it went before a single judge bench. The single judge bench actually gave a stay on giving this for Ganesh Chaturthi and later posted the case for September, especially hearing the aspect of the ownership. Perhaps the ownership battle will now be in the Karnataka High Court. It will be fought there. But on the issue of Ganesh Chaturthi, perhaps Kapil Sibal and the Waqf Board have convinced the court that there is no need to now bring in a new tradition until this ownership battle is sorted and settled, and there is no significance that this place has. It can be held elsewhere. That's what the justice said. You can have puja elsewhere and maintain status quo. It's a huge shot in the arm for the Waqf Board because they always believe that if Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations are allowed, it's in a way backing revenue department's claim that they own this place. They would see this as a huge victory. Has to be seen how the state government now responds, because they were keen on allowing Ganesh Chaturthi celebration. Only when they got to know that this case is landing up in the Supreme Court, they withheld their decision, but they had already thought about how they want to go about this whole Ganesh Chaturthi celebration here.
Harish, give me a moment. I'm also joined by Ananya, a Supreme Court reporter. So heated arguments between some of the top legal minds in the country. Ananya, how and why has the court come to the conclusion to have the status quo continue, at least for the interim?
Well, in fact, Zaka, now the Supreme Court has given out its verdict clearly saying that the status quo should be maintained and the matter is remanded back to the High Court, which would be hearing this petition. Now it has been clearly said that no kind of a puja or Namaaz, that both the sides would have to maintain the status quo until and unless the High Court decides the finality of this particular order. So heated arguments have taken place between and some of the greatest legal minds of the country, senior advocate Mukul Rohatgi, Dushyant Dave, in fact, Solicitor General Tushar Mehta and Kapil Sibal too. In fact, Mr. Rohatgi and Mr. Mehta continuously argued that the land belongs to the Karnataka government and it's a Sarkari land because there has been footpath, there's been municipal taps in there. However, the Waqf represented by Senior Advocate Kapil Sibal and Dushyant Dave continuously argued that it has been a 200-year land and has remained Waqf property, and clearly, in fact, saying that the status quo should not be altered with, and the government should not be allowed to, in fact, hold puja or any kind of religious procession shall not be allowed, though the land is open for children to play. And in fact, Namaaz is also offered 2 times a year, though in the normal courts also Namaaz is not allowed. But now it's very, very clear from the topmost court of the country that no kind of religious activity can continue at this point of time, and interim status quo has to be maintained until and unless the Karnataka High Court actually hears this matter completely and decides onto the same, Zaka.
All right, Ananya, we'll leave it at that. I want to get a word from Mohan.